The one-step growth experiment was done in 1930s, that is 1939, by Max Delbruck and Emory Ellis, and this was the beginning of bacteriophage research. The experiment is very simple. The experiment involves mixing of a culture of susceptible bacteria, such as what I was talking in the previous lecture, E. coli and bacteriophage, its respective bacteriophage, mix the mixing of the susceptible bacteria such as E. coli with bacteriophage particles, and the phages are allowed a short interval to attach to their host, followed by which the culture is diluted so that the newly released virions do not immediately infect new cells. The phages, uh, they just need to come with physical contact with the bacterial cells to attach themselves. That is like prevented by high degree of dilution. That is, the phages are less likely to contact host cells in dilute mixture. So followed by that, the number of infective phage particles released from the bacteria is subsequently determined at various time intervals by plaque assay. If you plot if a plot of bacteriophage released from the host versus time shows several distinct phases. Like here you can see a graph over the time. This is a plaque assay done over the time, and the titer of the plaque at different time points is seen. That is, in this plot you can see a distinct region. The first distinction between the bacterial growth curve and the viral growth curve is the viral growth curve is not sigmoidal. The viral growth curve is one step growth. Okay, so at initially there is a latent phase, that is where no virus particles are seen. That is, you have the eclipse phase. Eclipse phase is where you have the where there is infection happening, or it is also called as the initial phase. In this time period, the appearance of the first intracellular phages will be happening. There are no phages can be detected during this phase. Phase, the new phages are just forming. That is, in the eclipse phase, you have the infection and getting the virus is inside, viral genome is inside the bacteria, and you have the synthesis of new nucleic acid, that is the genome is being synthesized, and new protein codes are being synthesized. Now in the later part of the latent phase is the packaging, assembly and release, what is happening in the latent period. So there is a synthetic phase where all the intracellular particles are being produced as in the eclipse phase. In the eclipse phase, though it is produced, it is not observed. Like at this time points, when you mix the cells with the host and plate it, they do not form any plaque forming unit, though the viruses are present in the eclipse phase. In the later part of the latent phase, there is more of assembly and release. The blue line resembles the total count, and the red line resembles the released viral count. The total count means if you take the cells, harvest the cells, and the latent phase, in the later part of the latent phase, and observe for the viral particles in terms of plaque assay, you still can find viral load present. But in the later but if you just incubate and then incubate the virus and then centrifuge the cells and then take out the supernatant and do all the steps of the plaque assay and observe, the blue line will not be observed, only the red line will be observed. That is the rise phase. There are three phases in viral growth cycle: the latent period, the rise period, and the stationary period, or the equivalence period, where the release of the virus is constant, or the it is that the host is completely depleted, and that is the viral load. In the rise period, there is period lysis occurs and extracellular phages appear, and they increase in number of concentration of bacteriophages will rise. I'll repeat again. The number of infective phage particles released from bacteria is determined at various time intervals by plaque assay. First, initial mixing of the virus and bacteria, and the viral load released at every time point is plotted here in one-step growth experiment. A plot of bacteriophage released from the host cell versus time shows several distinct phases. That is the latent phase, which immediately follows phage addition. There is no release of virions. This is followed by the rise period, or the burst period, what we call, when the host cell rapidly lyse and release the infective phages. Finally, there is a plateau is reached where there no more viruses are liberated. Now, the total number of phages released can be used to calculate the burst size, the number of viruses produced per infected cell. So this is an example of an adenovirus one-step growth experiment. You can see that intracellular viruses, if you calculate, that is the red line, that is initially it is overlapping with the latent period. That is the virus particles are completely formed, but they are intracellular, and extracellular viruses only starts after the latent period, when there is the rise period. Now, there is one more experiment called single burst experiment, which was also designed by Ellis and Delberg. This can also be applied to study the study of individual infected cells rather than using averages. In one-step growth experiment, an average result estimation you can do, but here you can correlate to a single cell. So to achieve the experiment goal is for each culture tube to have only one infected cell. After lysis is complete, all phage particles found in the test result from a single burst cell. To achieve this goal, a culture of bacteria is infected with a small number of phages, such as that the multiplicity of infection is less than 1. So the number of infectious particles added per cell, not the number of infectious particle each cell receives, is multiplicity of infection. That means if you add 10 to the power of 7 virions to 10 to the power of 6 cell, then multiplicity of infection is 10. So multiplicity of infection should be less than 1 for single burst experiment. Infection depends on random collision of virions and cell. When susceptible cells are mixed with virus, some cells are uninfected, some cells receive 1 or 2, 3 or more particles. The distribution of this viral particles per cell is explained by Poisson distribution. That is, by using this formula, pK is the fraction of cells infected by, that is, k virus particles. M is the multiplicity of infection. if total uninfected cell is represented by PO, which is e to the power of minus m, cells receiving one particle, that is P1, which is equal to m into e to the power of minus m. Cells multiply infected, that is P, which are more than one number of cells infected, is equal to 1 minus e to the power of minus m into m plus 1. So using that, you can calculate how much of viral load is required for a single burst experiment. In single burst experiment, there is a stepwise increase in the concentration of phage particle with time. Each increase in phage concentration representing one replicative cycle of the virus. If you see the picture, it will be very clear. So see, you can see now this is, you can have a diluted virus load, or the experiment can be done using diluted bacterial or the host load. So when you mix a diluted virus or diluted bacterial, there will be a single cell infecting and releasing the particle. So the rise phase is where there is more number of cells in the dilute sample are bursting out, and then one phase is completed, and then you can see many phases appearing till the complete bacteriophages are complete bacteria are used up. In this type of assay, a plaque forming unit can be either a single extracellular virus particle or an infected bacterial cell. These two can be distinguished by disruption of bacteria with chloroform before plating, which releases any intracellular phage particles, giving the total viral count, that is intracellular plus extracellular virus. Immediately after dilution of the culture, there is a phase of 10 to 15 minutes when no phage particles are detectable, that is the eclipse phase. This represents a time when virus particles have broken down after penetrating cells, releasing their genome as prerequisite to replication, and therefore cannot be detected by plaque assay. The latent period is the time before the first new extracellular virus particle appear, that is 20 to 25 minutes for most bacteriophages. About 40 minutes after the cells are infected, the curves for the total number of virus particles and for extracellular virus merge, because the infected cells have lysed and released any intracellular phage particles by this time. The yield of particles produced per infected cell can be calculated from the overall rise of the phage titer. So there is one more experiment that is called as the premature lysis experiment. Premature lysis experiment was designed by A.H. Doreman, who took a standard one-step growth experiment and altered it. In this experiment, the samples removed at various times are treated to lyse all cells in culture. That means the lysates can then be assayed for the presence of free phage particles or their component, like the DNA, how much of DNA is present which is not still yet to be assembled. Cells can be lysed by shaking with chloroform or by super infecting the culture with high multiplicity of T6 phage like for example, if you have a T6 phage infection and you add one more T6 phage to it, the cells will lyse, the cells will not be remaining. So and that is the premature lysis experiment. The graph looks, if you do such experiment, the graph looks something like this. Under this condition, the graph again shows the same kind of stages, that is initial latent phase, and then there is a rise phase where you have the total phage. In terms of DNA, it is mentioned here. you can have in terms of the protein codes, or you can have in terms of the same graph can be represented in terms of the total assembled phages. Will also have the same phases, that is initial lateral phase, then there is rise phase, and there is the plateau phase. The difference between here and one step growth experiment is at each step, what at say 5 minutes, the mixing of host cell and the bacterium, followed by 5 minutes there is what plaque assay done. But here in case of premature lysis, the whole cells are lysed and then either assayed for the presence of genetic material and protein codes, or for the total